I was discussing Pokémon with my brother the other day, and that conversation eventually shifted to being about Generation 4. I got into the fact that I can't start a new save file for Soul Silver due to a certain Pokémon that can't leave the game. Well, one can, but if I do let it jump to Gen 5 and onwards, then I am losing out on a rare event I'll never be able to see again. But the one I cannot trade outside of Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the spiky-eared Pichu, in which you need a mystery gift Shiny Pichu to make it even appear. And while the movie event Arceus isn't like Pichu and can go to the Sinnoh games, it shouldn't leave the Generation 4 games. Otherwise, you'll be unable to witness an event I'll be getting into later. The spiky-eared Pichu can't leave Heart Gold or Soul Silver, but you can trade that other Pichu into another game to trigger the event again. But my main concern was the Arceus that was from a Toys R Us event. I've heard enough YouTube creators complain about how they couldn't get this thing when they were young, and I was fortunate that my late grandmother didn't mind taking me. But I too missed out on events I knew nothing about, like the event Regigigas and Platinum that allows you to catch the Regitrio hidden in Sinnoh. This conversation made me realize something. The Pokémon Company does a bad job with events and making them only last for a short time or worse. They use them as an incentive to push players to purchase the game day one, boosting release date sales. FOMO, or fear of missing out, is a powerful tool companies use to push you to buy whatever they're selling you. You see this in many things: seasonal events or crossovers in mobile games, limited releases of merchandise, day one editions, etc. And Pokémon is one of the grandfathers of exploiting their audience for limited opportunities. I call these events a once-in-your-lifetime event. Events that you had to be there, alive and aware of the situation, to get involved and experience something one day no one else will be able to experience. What's that, little Jimmy? You were barely even born when this Arceus event was released? Sorry, that's your fault. Should have been born sooner, my friend. I'll be honest, I don't like this. Events that are not part of the game in some way, and keeping certain Pokemon is impossible to catch on your own so that the Pokemon Company can release them as limited events. We're seeing that right now. As I'm writing this video, there's only a few days left to get your own Mew. Mew has been notorious as one of the mythical Pokemon you can never catch legit. It's always tied to events and, until now, never came with your trainer ID. But it's still shiny locked. But once that's gone, who knows how long people will have to wait for another Mew. There was another event Pokemon I had, but I think I made the mistake of moving it up. There was an event Celebi that lets you unlock a scene where we discover some lore about Silver and Giovanni, that he is in fact Giovanni's son, and you also got the chance to fight Giovanni himself. But now, I want to talk about the main event, the one that not only adds depth to Johto that it desperately needed, but also important lore for all of Pokemon. I am, of course, referring to the Arceus event tied to the Ruins of Alph. You see, when you put all your Pokemon in the PC and enter the area with only an Arceus, something interesting happens. You get transported to the Sinjoh Ruins. You can look in your map, but you'll quickly see you're somewhere out of bounds, but you're at least north of the region. Here, you meet Cynthia, and she explains the significance of the Sinjoh Ruins, but also its significance with Arceus itself. Here, you are able to create one of the creation trio, Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina. They can learn a special move they normally cannot learn naturally to commemorate their creation. When you make your choice and the process begins, you see the purpose of the unknown. They work under Arceus. We've known these things well before Sinnoh was established, and individually they are weak, but together, weird stuff happens. And it's at this moment we finally learn their purpose and the full extent of their abilities. In the Pokédex entry for Arceus, it stated that it created the universe with its 1,000 arms. What if these unknown were those very arms, or they are merely instruments to help Arceus design whatever it desires? But anyway, what you've been seeing until now is the trippiest cutscene in Pokémon history. Nothing has come close to matching this since its inception. And I really love this moment. It's a mystery that potentially solves some questions, but leaves even more in its place. But if you don't have this mystery gift Arceus, or you let it move up to Gen 5 and beyond, then you're going to have to hack it in, and I don't like that. Remember, They never released the Azure Flute event because, in their words, it was too complicated for children. But despite all this, I despise the fact that this crucial piece of information, this powerful moment in the franchise, is locked behind an event that you had a weekend's worth of time to get. That is a goddamn shame. Here's another Pokemon that's even worse in Gen 4, the Manaphy Egg fiasco. Did you know how to get this one? You had to beat a whole other game for it. You needed to beat the main story of Pokemon Ranger to unlock the side story of the Manaphy Egg, which still needed a password. When you finish this mission, everyone concludes that the egg should be given to a trainer in Sinnoh, and it is here where you learn that you get the only egg that this cartridge is ever going to give. Sounds bizarre? Let me explain. Some mythical Pokemon have escaped their event-only hell and are now catchable. Deoxys was uncatchable for many years and is now in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire's post-game. It is now possible to catch your own Deoxys. The only other way to get one was from one of the other Pokemon Ranger games. Darkrai, Shaman, Manaphy, and Arceus can also be caught, but you need to beat the post-game of Pokemon Legends Arceus for that. And for Arceus in particular, you need to complete the Sinnoh Dex just to try and go for that capture. So some effort has been done for them, but events that activate cutscenes and such will forever be impossible to see authentically. You'll have to hack the game or find another way, like how some people brought back certain giveaways of event Pokemon. So here's something I found out after writing this. Shaman and Darkrai are indeed catchable in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but there's a catch. You see, to get Shaman, you need to save data for either Sword or Shield, and for Darkrai, you must have save data for Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl. Yeah, Game Freak did it again. I think the scumminess of that design choice speaks for itself here. One last thing that's recent is the Virtual Console release of Pokémon Crystal, which contains the event for Celebi. But you need to have the game already downloaded on your 3DS. The 3DS eShop recently closed earlier this year, so if you don't have it, well, that's not their fault, is it? Some may say that we should let it go, and I get that. But it feels so wrong that newer players will never get to experience moments like these on their own. That's the beauty of gaming, after all. It's a piece of art you interact with and make your own, carving your own personal experience that only you took part in. Everyone else has their own story, and that's great, but game preservation itself is already a difficult issue, so to have these limited events that can never come back, it's just a shame. But what can we do about it? If I'm being honest, there isn't much we can do. We can document these events, record them and such, but keeping the event Pokemon locked away in that generation, passing them along with friends nearby is all we can really do. There will be no effort from Game Freak to bring these back in any way, so it's up to us. After all, eventually everything we have access to now will be inaccessible one day. While I have no interest in Sword and Shield, I know one day we will not be able to play the DLC anymore. That won't happen for a long time at least, but it will be unfortunate for future generations as they will be unable to try them out for themselves. While I personally don't like the DLC due to the high price, I can't help but feel that anyone that does enjoy it will not have that opportunity to play that DLC in the future if they either A, lose access to the DLC from their Switch dying or whatever, or B, they're fans in the future who are trying to experience everything that the franchise has to offer. I know this isn't a captivating subject for many, but I feel it is a topic that needs to be discussed, not just here, but with everyone who loves these older games, and the newer ones that are out right now. And I don't even have a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a very tough subject, but there is one thing some fans are doing to keep these events alive. For Gens 4 and 5, there are ways to still get access to events. I'll link to some videos about it in the description, but you may have to search for some newer ones yourself, either on YouTube or somewhere else. These events are also random, so you won't know what you get until it arrives, but hey, at least there is still some way to get access to these things, and we have these passionate fans to thank for that. Game preservation is already a very important subject, but events like these fall beneath the cracks of those discussions, and it is important that we remember them. Some may be minor and insignificant, but some things we experience can never be forgotten, and we should make sure no one else forgets about them either. Sharing the experience is one of the greater joys we experience here in the world of gaming. While the universe does dictate when things and people die, said things and people are only truly dead when they're forgotten.